What's up, guys? This is Golf Wars. We should be joined by Big T pretty shortly, but right now you're getting just me and Bryce. How we doing today, Bryce?
Uh, couldn't be better. We get a NBA Finals game tonight. Never been to one, so that should be super fun. Good way to warm up for the U.S. Open.
Yeah, this game tonight is going to be a little hectic. So the show had to go on early today because we're both going to be at the game tonight. Snyder was not able to join us due to a work commitment, but we're here to talk U.S. Open with the egregiously priced Scotty Sheffler, but we'll get to that in a second. I 14,400 is just an absurd number to me. I don't know. I feel like I'm going to have less of him than I normally do. Do you feel the same way?
Well, normally, like he's been in the 13s. Like, he can finish top 3 and still get there. But I mean, what's the worst do you think that he can finish and be an optimal? Like second or third? The absolute worst. I can't see him like being optimal at like 4 or 5. So
I was going to say 5 if some of the 5K guys do okay, just because that range exists. If it was just 6,000s, I think he almost would have to win. But if you get some of these guys that are playable down in the, I have guys as cheap as 5,300 in my pool. So I feel like if some of them play well, it could make it easier. But it's pretty unlikely if he finishes out of the top 3, at least to me. So how high are you going on him? How do you feel about him with the course? I mean, it seems like everybody is kind of in unison saying, "Oh, he's just going to run everybody over again." I'm not sure I feel the same way, but
I mean, this course does introduce a decent amount of variance. Just like you can really play yourself out of the tournament on one hole, and I think he's like the least likely player to do that. But like, there's still like you could still see him finding some trouble here. Like it's not, it's not like he finds every single fairway and hits the ball to 10 feet every time. He can still get into some trouble. I'm seeing about, what do you think he comes in owned at? Like 20%?
I think he will come in higher in low stakes than he does in high stakes, which is the opposite of normal.
Yeah. I kind of want to be slightly over. I was thinking, like, I haven't ran my file yet, but I think that there's enough good cheap plays that you can get him this week. I think he's the unquestioned best play here. And if you want any like semblance of a floor, he's obviously your guy. Hand building teams with him, there's going to be some pretty chalky builds, like because you're forced into like a certain type of build if you play him. So I would just try and like not like pair him with like the mega chalk down cheap. And obviously you can do a couple of them, but make sure to get like some different guys in your lineup.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. You need to be heavily diverse at the base if you're going to play a lot of them, because these shitters, you kind of don't know which ones are going to be okay, but some of them could be all right. I'm playing a lot of people in the low 6s, but not nearly as many in the 5s. So if I were to run it without hand building the Scotty teams, it probably would be jamming in your Matt McCarty's and Chris Gotterups, the people that are actually usable down there. I don't want to be going in on Frederick Lacroix or your boy Nick Dunlap. Like I don't want to get there. So, you may have to go heavier on some guys at the base, but it's tough. It's tough. 14,400 is prohibitive, and especially when Bryson DeChambeau's sitting right there at 11. But we're going to talk about Rory alone first, since there's such a price discrepancy. Rory's up over 1,500 at 1,522 on Penny, 124,000. So 1,400 more than DeChambeau, a full 2,200 more than John Rahm when Rahm has better odds. How do you feel about playing Rory? I feel like he's going to be like 5% or less. And he's obviously played well this year, but he's spoken about how he hasn't been practicing as much recently, how he's having trouble getting off the horse. He said he shot 81 in a practice round. I don't think it's a particularly good course fit either. He missed a cut the last time it was at Oakmont. Oakmont's your spot. What do you think about Rory's game there?
I mean, it's not really. I mean, obviously you want to be long off the tee, but his game looks super off right now. To me, it seems like he's pretty checked out after the Masters. But I'm seeing what's Rory going to come in at, like
5?
10%?
I think 5. 5.
5. I think he'll be lower in high stakes than low stakes. So I'm okay on buying Rory here at that ownership. I still think he's 15 to 1 to win. At a minimum, he should be 5%. I wouldn't want to go any lower on him.
Missed the cut is only plus 235, as Matty Ice just said in chat.
Yeah, that's crazy for someone that expensive. I would definitely not do it outside of large field GPPs that are fairly top heavy, but I'm okay buying him in that scenario. We're looking to find ways to the top, and that's the clear path is Rory winning when you're buying on him. So I don't like clicking him here, but I do want to be over on him.
Yeah, if I'm playing 10 Mega Milli 4444 teams, I want one to have Rory in it, which will get you over. But I don't want to go crazy on it because he seems like he doesn't care. Which I usually don't really give a shit about with golfers, especially. You see, I play Cameron Young every fucking week, and he seems like he doesn't give a shit. So, but for somebody that costs $12,400, it's a little different than doing it for somebody that's cheap. Ryan Dolan's asking a question: is it viable to play a 5K and 6K in the same line, or should you stick to one below 7K? I think you can build it however you want.
6K range is super strong this week compared to what it normally is because the shitters are in the 5K range instead of the 6K. So the top of the 6K range, and we'll get to that obviously, is probably the strongest range for value.
Yeah, I agree with that. Vit makes a good point. Rory can't use his cheating driver. Yeah, I put an asterisk next to his Masters win. Now he's got to win it again, or it doesn't count. But we'll get into the next range. I'll go with Bryson down to. We'll just do the 3. Bryson, Xander, and John Rahm, I think, is the critical group of people here. We'll start with Bryson because his odds are so low. He's coming in around plus 750 for 3,400 less than Scotty Sheffler. That seems like it's pretty close in odds, based on, it's way closer than the price for DFS. So I would imagine that Bryson's going to come in pretty chalky here. What do you think his ownership ends up at, and what do you want to do with him?
I'm probably going to be around 30% Bryson. He's if I was hand building a team, I'd start with him and Rahm for a cash game scenario, but we're not playing cash here. I'd probably try and avoid that super chalky Bryson Rahm type of build. I would rather buy on Bryson than Rahm. Bryson's performed well in the majors since going to LIV. Rahm hadn't done shit.
Well, until the last one, but he cratered at the end. Yeah,
I don't know. Bryson seems locked in. He's such an absolute dork that he really cares about winning. And being the best. He's not checked out like a lot of these guys seem. So, I probably want to play around 30%. If that's under the field, so be it. But I do want to buy on Xander here. It's kind of the one of the 3 that I do. I think it's kind of similar to the Scotty, Rory, Bryson type of squeeze that he's going to get, as opposed to the Bryson, Xander, Rahm squeeze. Like the guys in between, like Rory and Xander, are going to get squeezed so hard that, Xander plays well on these type of courses. I always like taking him on tough golf courses. You know, it just seems like a great spot to buy on him if he's going to be like 5 to 10%. So I do want to be over the field on him. Rahm, I'm fine selling. Like you can't play all of these guys, but I think you're getting a ton of win equity. Like if you're not playing 150 teams, and like most of you aren't, I would be okay like forcing at least one of these guys into my build of the top 5, just because like there's so much value with the pricing going down to 5K this week.
Yeah, I mean, I don't outright disagree with you, but I definitely want at least one of the main 3 or 4. I don't know if I would include Xander in that. His odds are worse than Aubert for 800 more. So there's a similar squeeze going to happen on him, like you stated. I do think Bryson comes in over 30% in high stakes, so that takes a little bit of the allure away. But you also don't want to get pummeled if he wins. So, and then Rahm 10,200. He's only 11.5, 11.6 to 1. He's been playing well. It's going to be tough to fit Xander in. I think it's a similar situation to Rory, where you just try and put yourself in a position where if he wins, you might catch a piece of it. But other than that, like, don't really hammer it. At least it's the way I'm looking at it. Go down to the next range. We'll go with Morikawa down to Tommy. No, we'll go down to Neiman. That seems like more of a logical range. So Morikawa at 9,800 down to Neiman at 8,600. Morikawa has let me down a lot this year. I don't know how you're feeling about him, but I assume your favorite pick in this range is Aubert, like mine. But how do you feel about the rest of it?
I like Aubert, and I like Neiman a ton. I'd say Neiman is my favorite play in the range. At 8,600, he fits a lot of roster constructions. You get a really thin 9K and 8K range this week with kind of the pricing structure. Like the mid-tier guys just got dropped to like pretty much the 7s, like the guys you're used to seeing in the 8s here, and like we're in the 8s at the Masters. So you get a super thin range. So I kind of think like these guys will be more owned than they normally are, just because like there's not as many plays here. Morikawa probably around 15% for me. I think he can do well, but I would rather get more win equity in my mind by just getting up to one of the 10K guys than him. Aberg, I mean, I'm seeing that he's going to come in lower owned. I don't really believe that just because he steams so much. Like, as you said, he's like 20 to 1 now. So I would kind of adjust your ownership projections for that. Like, what do you think he comes in at? Like 15 to 20%?
20.
Yeah. I'd probably be around 20 to 25 on him. JT, I'm fine selling here. Cantlay, I'm fine selling here. Like if you're just trying to get some guys out of the range, I think they're the worst plays in this range. Fleetwood, I think, is okay, but I do prefer Neiman to him.
I agree with pretty much all that. Aubert, to me, is the best play in the range at 9,600. The upside's always there. He plays well in the majors. He seems like he's kind of gotten over the injury/sickness that was affecting him much earlier in the year. After that, Joaquin Neiman, 8,600, as you said, it's just too cheap. You're basically getting the same odds as Morikawa for 1,200 less. So Neiman would be my second best pick in that range. But after him, I think it's Morikawa. I just don't have a ton of interest in Patrick Cantlay and Justin Thomas. JT especially has fucked me over one too many times this year. Cantlay hasn't been playing that well. So I do think that Morikawa would be the next choice in this range, and then Fleetwood, and then Cantlay and Thomas would come in at the bottom. Like, I'm not outright fading them, but they're definitely the 2 worst here. The next range, We got an 8,500 Victor Hovland. We'll go down to Sepp Straka at 77. So that's a group of 5. I'm going to truncate it a little bit because I think the 2 best plays almost on the entire board are right here. Talk about Shane Lowry and Sepp Straka, and how much of them are you going to play?
I mean, I feel like I never like buying Lowry at the U.S. Opens just because like his game is not really made for this type of golf. But you are going to be scrambling this week, no matter who you are,
He hits it
and
straight.
he's one of the best in the world at that, and he's going to put the ball in the fairway, and he's 7,700. Like, I mean, or sorry, 7,800. Lowry, I probably want to be 25 to 30%. If I was making 10 teams, I'd probably have 3 of them. And if you want to get more aggressive, I think you can here. I'm fine. I kind of talked about getting a little different at the top because like there's a couple like clear misprices here that I do want to hammer home, and he's one of them. I do prefer him to Sepp Straka, but I also like Straka. Like I think Straka could come in maybe a little bit lower than we're thinking here, and I see projected just because I think Lowry soaks up a lot of the ownership. So I don't think you need to be quite as aggressive with Straka as you do with Lowry. Brooks, he just doesn't give a fuck. I don't want anything to do with him. Hideki, to me, is not right, but I'd be much more willing to buy on him than Brooks. And then Hovland, probably not going to be a buy for me, but I'm not like taking him out of the pool. Kind of envision like a 5 to 8% type of deal on him.
Yeah, I agree on Hovland and Brooks. Matsuyama as well, although Matsuyama is pretty significantly cheaper than Hovland, 8,500 down to 8K. Lowry, 30% sounds right. I think his game is made for the U.S. Open, with how well he scrambles. Obviously, he's not the strongest putter, but, tee to green, I don't. There's not many that are better than him at avoiding getting himself into the muck at this type of course. Straka, he's just been playing really well. I was kind of surprised to see his future odds be this low here, but when you're playing as well as he has been, he might just be ascending into the next tier of player. He's a big guy, he can hit it, and he doesn't really have any severe weaknesses in his game. So I'm definitely going to be trying to get over on Straka. They're the 2 best clear best plays. Pretty much like all the way up to Neiman and down to Connors. It's just them, at least to me. So we'll move into the next range. Tyrrell Hatton, 7,600 down to Wyndham Clark, 7K. I think there's one clear best play in this range. I'm going to see if you agree with me.
We're going down to Wyndham here.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's Corey Connors.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you're talking about guys who find fairways and hit the ball straight, that's him. I like taking him on tough golf courses. He always seems to like, I don't know, be like around top 20. It seems like he finishes like every major top 20. I feel.
He's great at bogey avoidance.
Yeah. I think he's a very strong play. Like that's why I'm not like super opposed to playing like expensive golfers this week, because you can get Lowry for 7,800. You can get Connors for 7,300. I do think there's some other good plays in the range here. Not just to talk about him. I like Keegan a good amount. And I like Russell Henley here. Just guys who find fairways. People in the chat are talking about Connors not being able to putt.
Well, the greens are different here than they are at every other tournament. I think it's going to be hard to predict who putts well.
Yeah. I think Oakmont provides a pretty unique challenge in terms of like greens. Like just the complexes that they have are like extremely different from anything these guys play, like on a regular basis. So I never worry too much about putting. You will have to putt well here, but as you said, I think it's very hard to predict. So I think you just kind of like play the ball strikers here. So that's not something that's like going to get me off of Corey Connors. Yeah, I like Sam Burns a lot in this range. I think he's going to come in like fairly chalky, but that's another really good play for 7,100. Just running through them here. I don't love Wyndham. Sungjae, not for me this week. You can say the same about Fitz. Minwoo, don't particularly like. Cam Smith, I'd be willing to take a chance on. Like, I think he has a little bit of upside just with his ability to scramble and whatnot. Finau, not for me. Yeah, and Spieth, I'm seeing he's going to come in. What, 10%? I can't. This seems like the worst possible course for Spieth.
No,
I do like.
it's
I do like.
can't hit it straight.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, even if you're the best in scrambling at this field, you don't want to be scrambling.
Yeah.
Like, if you're scrambling like often, you're in massive trouble. Like, so not really for me this week. I would much prefer like a Hatton. He can obviously tilt his brains off here, and it seems like the kind of course that would do it to him, but it's going to do it to a lot of guys this week. And 7,600, I think you have a lot of upside there.
Yeah, I agree that Connors is the best play in this range. Such a solid ball striker, and the putting could come around because of the change in how the greens work at here versus a normal tournament. The other plays in this range: Hatton, Spieth, Henley, Bradley, Ben Griffin, Sam Burns. I could play any of them. I think they're all very similar. Not really a whole lot of interest in the rest of the range. Finau, Cameron Smith, Minwoo, Fitzpatrick, Sungjae, Wyndham Clark. Don't really like any of those, but I think that there's three clear tiers. You got Connors, and then you got all those guys that are about 70-1, and then the next tier of guys who I don't want to have a ton of. Not that I am outright removing them. If you put a gun to my head, I would say Tony Finau is the best of them, but he also costs the most. So don't really have a ton of interest there. Now we'll get into a more attractive range. I think 6,900 we'll go down to Adam Scott at 66. So the upper half of the 69. See who came down to Adam Scott. I'll go ahead and go first. I think Harris English is by far the best play in this range. He's been playing well as of late. I think the course fit is strong. Another good play here, Bobby Mack. It's also at 67. It's at straight, well versed in playing tough golf courses. Another straight hitter, Daniel Berger. He's let us down a few times recently, but again, the course fit is better than pretty much everybody else in this range. So those would be my top three here. I have some interest in Patrick Reed and Maverick McNeely, but beyond that, it's not going to be too much. What do you think about this group?
I couldn't agree with you more. I love Berger here. I love Harris English here. How cheap were we going here?
Scott would be the last one, so down to 66.
Yeah. Let's go through this range. I think Jason Day is a pretty solid play here at 6,900. I'd much rather play him than like Rose or Siwoo. This seems like the worst type of course for him. Like he's such a high variance player that's not what you want here. Patrick Reed, I think can like game out some good rounds here. He's the type of guy that like seems like he could like just like shoot even pars here. So I kind of like him. I think Maverick McNeely is a decent play. He's not been playing quite as good a golf as he was, but I do like his form some. Ryan Fox, I think, will go over-owned after his win last week. Don't really like JJ Spawn here. The guy I'm probably going to be most over on here is Bobby Mack. I just think he comes in at like 5%, and I like this range a good amount. He would be like my leverage play if you want to get off some of the chalk, because like the chalk build was going to be what? Bryson, Rahm, Connors, Lowry, and that leaves you 6,800 for your last two spots. So people are probably just going to take two guys in this range. So I think in those type of builds, like I would definitely get off of like some chalk. Like you can't just play like the six chalkiest guys and make a cash team that's going to be duped 1,000 times. So I think Bobby Mack provides decent leverage here. I don't want anything to do with Akshay. Don't like Adam Scott and Dustin Johnson. Don't care that he won in 2016. He's a completely different golfer now. He's just completely checked out.
Yep. All right. We'll go down to the lower half of the 6,500s from or the 6,000s from Taylor Pendrith down to Gary Woodland. Who's your favorite in this range? It's a rather large range, but I think there's a ton of usable players here.
Yeah, well, I mean, these guys are normally like your high six, low sevens type of guys that like I do like to play like your 100 to 1 shots in general. So, the range is much more playable than most weeks just because the pricing is going down to 5K. Guys I like here. I like Cam Young. I don't hate Van An. Harmon's not for me. Pendrith, I think, is a solid play. Don't love Davis Thompson. I don't hate Carlos Ortiz. I think he's a decent play this week. Norgard Peterson is kind of whatever. Not going to be on him a ton. Same goes for Grazerman. My favorite play in the range is Aaron Rai. If we're talking about like people who hit the ball straight, I think Aaron Rai is right there. If he wants to make the Ryder Cup team too, and I think there's a chance he makes it. I think playing well here would go a long way for that, just because like U.S. Open style golf is probably how the U.S. will set it up. So I think that'll like factor in there. Novak, I think, is a solid play. I kind of like this range in general, just because like I think like people aren't really going to dip down here, and you can get some quality golfers. Like they're just going to go to like the high sixes in general.
You didn't mention the best play in the range, Bryce. My boy, Cameron Young at 6,500.
I said I like Cameron Young.
What? Oh, you say you like him?
I said I liked him. Rye's my favorite play in the range. I'd take Rye over Cameron Young personally, but I mean, I think Scam's good here.
Yeah, Cameron Young's my favorite play here. 6,500, long and straight, 107 to 1. I'm on him every fucking week. Not going to back off now. I think the course fits strong, and I think he'll do well. Taylor Pendrith would be my next, also at 6,500. He's been playing well as well. Rye and Carlos Ortiz, which you mentioned, both of them. I think that they are the type of golfer that would fit this type of course. I think you can play Dietrich, Grazerman, Novak, Nick Taylor, all decent plays. Down at the bottom of the range, Ryan Gerard, strong off the tee. Rasmus Højgaard and Thorbjorn Olsen, who played particularly well last week. I think you can certainly play along with Gary Woodland at 6K flat, former U.S. Open winner. I don't mind him too much with those low stingers. And now we're getting to the shitters. Vic Perez down to like that guy that is from your country club that's in this fucking shit.
Yeah, Matt Vogt, the dentist that's been all over Golf Channel.
Yes,
we are members of the same country club in Indianapolis.
Yes.
Funny.
So, how do you think about it's pretty much just go through which guys you're actually playing down here?
Yeah. Not a lot. I would really rather get into the sixes. Guys, I'm just going to list guys that like I'm okay playing here. I think McCarty's okay. I think Vegas is okay. I think Kanaya's okay. Mark Hubbard, I don't absolutely hate. Got her up. I think you can play at 4,500 or 5,400. Sorry. Yeah. I think you could theoretically just cut off like your pool at the 6Ks, like if you're not playing like tons of teams here. Like we saw what Mac Hughes was the 5,400 cheapie last time, missed the cut. Anyone that's going to be super chalky in this range, I don't love anyone. I don't think anyone comes in that high. If you have a strong take, I think just play like 5% of them here, and you're going to be over the field on pretty much anyone. I don't have like some crystal ball that's able to tell you which shitter is going to do well. If I had to pick one in this range, I'd pick McCarty. He'd probably be my favorite play, but yeah, I think you can. I think the absolute cheapest playable guy is Brian Campbell at 5,300. I don't really want to play him this week. I think Goddard is playable at 5,400, and that's as low as I would go. I'd just cut everyone below that.
My cheapest player is also Chris Goddard, so I totally agree there. I think he and McCarty are the best plays in the range because they give you a little more salary relief than the guys in the higher part of the range, and that's what you're looking for down here. Jordan L. Smith is a decent course fit with how straight he hits the ball. Grillo, same logic. Laurie Cantor, it's the same types of players that we're talking about. These guys that may not really pummel the ball long, but they hit it straight down the middle. They don't make tons of mistakes, and that's kind of what you're looking for down in this range. I know we got a couple of questions about specific people. Guido, not really interested. He hasn't been as good as of late. Bud Cauley is in my pool. I don't like him a ton. Batia is the one guy in that range that we didn't mention that I think is playable, like at a decent number. So I do like Batia a fair bit. We'll close it out with favorite bets. Bryce, what are you before we do a pick six? Bryce, who's your favorite futures bet? Give me a chalk one and then somebody at the bottom.
I'm once again, and I feel like I'm always going to this market, but it's a market that I really do enjoy. I like playing the winner without Scotty Sheffler stuff. It's just it works out pretty well when he's playing as well as he is. Aaron Rai 80-1 without Scheffler. Cameron Young 90-1 without Scheffler. I like a lot. I know you're probably going to give away Cameron Young as well. Carlos Ortiz 120-1 winner without Scotty. And then if you want some chalkier plays here, I wouldn't play the shorter guys, like the shorter odds guys in the without Scotty markets. I think you just have to bite the bullet there. I don't hate Daniel Berger at 90-1, Keegan Bradley at 80-1, or Harris English at 90-1.
Yeah, at the top, I'm thinking Ludwig at around 20, 21-1 would be my favorite one up there. And then going down further, Bobby Mack and Harris English at around 90, 95, 100-1, depending on where you can get them. We'll go in now to a pick six. Let me do the screen share here. Pick six, sponsored by DraftKings. Here we go. I'll start with my first one will be Joaquin Niemann better than 24.5 finishing position. What do you got for me?
I love the Neiman pick. To dip back into DFS real quick, you can see why everyone likes Lowry, Straka, and Connors. If you just look at the pick 6 board, look who they're priced around. You know, they're priced around the 9K guys. You know, Thomas, Cantlay, Avery. I'm gonna go Ben Griffin worse than 29.5. I know he's playing great right now, but I just don't think that he's as good as the rest of these guys.
Yeah, and I'm just going to go right into the same range. Aubert, better than 29.5.
Yeah, that I kind of thought you would take that, so I left
That
it
seems
open.
kind of it seems kind of high. So
I mean, he's pretty similar to Morikawa in my opinion.
like that's a layup. Yeah,
and they're 10 spots different.
yeah. So
I do I like that play a lot.
right.
This one's a 0.7, but I'll take Aaron Rodgers to make the cut
Right.
over 36.5 holes.
Yeah, let me click here. There we go. Aaron Rhyme, more than 36.5. All right. I will take another one of those with we can't do Ludwig. But that would be Ludwig at 30 to make the cut as a 0.7 multiplier is kind of crazy to me. So yeah, I think that's a fairly safe one. We'll go with Straka to make the cut. And then we need one more from you.
Connors to make the cut.
Back there. Connors to make the cut. And we got guaranteed at least 6.8x with all those 0.7s. Neiman better than
really.
20. Yeah.
0.7's kind of kill you here.
Yeah.
In terms of your upside, but
yeah.
I
mean, if they're layups, they're layups. I mean,
yeah, I mean, you're getting. I mean, like if you extrapolate the odds to the 0.7s,
right?
It's much.
You're
it's
getting
much
big
better
value
than betting it like outright.
Yeah. All right. So we go with Joaquin Neiman better than 24.5 finishing position. Ben Griffin worse than 29th. Aubert better than 29th. Rye to make the cut. Straka to make the cut. Connors to make the cut. That'll be 100 to win at least 686. I'll post that on Twitter. We did hit our pick 6 last week, all 6 for a 9.8x multiplier. So
was that the first time we got the full 6 on the show? I think it was. We've also been doing.
I think we got it twice, but yeah.
We've also been doing this show less than 9 weeks, so
yeah.
Not a bad pick 6 performance. It feels good to bag one.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and submit that. Can we play this in Indiana? We're about to find out.
Yeah, you can.
Your picks have been submitted. I'll post that on Twitter. For Bryce, I am JBC, and we're out. Good luck, everybody.